Today I'm going to talk to you about something. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that I'm reflecting on because it's taken me, I'm reflecting on this next month I'll be 40 years old, right? So it's a huge milestone, right? 40 yes, thank you. It's been 40 years, okay? So I'm almost going to be 40 years old, and you think back about the last 40 years, and I look at like the younger people that are half my age, and I see the things I was able to do when I was younger. Right? I look at the things and I say, oh wow, now that I've hit 40, there's some things you can't do like you did before, right? You get sick a lot easier, and you when you get sick longer, right? You probably about a third of the things you can't really do because of age, I guess. Your senses begin to dull, because I'm a man too, my pride is still strong, but then there are certain things that you don't really care about as much as before, right? You just don't really care about them as much, so it's just like, oh, okay, whatever, right? And I was thinking about this, and the thing something that was really interesting, because I was our senior pastor, Pastor Joshua, right? I've been watching some of the videos of the things that he's been doing lately, right? And he's a senior pastor of our church, of all the churches, right? And I was watching him, and he's like 73 years old, right? So he's a lot older than me. He's basically just like me to you guys, I'm double your age. Like, he's like basically double my age, right? And the first video I'm watching, he's like, oh, okay, so it's cool. It's like he's playing soccer, for about, 12 hours. All right, cool, right? He's doing that, scoring about 70 goals. All right, okay, cool, right? Then I watch another video, like it's like the next week is like volleyball, right? All day. And then it's like tennis, and then badminton, then back to volleyball, and then soccer, and then ping pong, and then he goes back to volleyball. Yesterday it was volleyball and tennis. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting, right? And I was like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And then the thing that made me even more shocked today is like he preaches a lot. Okay, so he preaches like morning messages like 6 times a week. Plus, there's a Wednesday message. Plus, there's a Sunday. So I was like, wow, that's like 8 messages a week. And then today, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, he added another sermon. He added a sermon at 5:30 a.m. on Sundays on top of the 10:40 a.m. service he does, right? So I'm sitting there like going, what the heck is going on, right? Because when you think about this guy's 73 years old, and I'm like 33 years his junior, okay? And this guy's playing sports, and it's not like, the one thing I have to tell you this, it's not hearsay. You know what hearsay is, right? Hearsay is when someone's telling you, hey, guess what? I heard he's playing for 13 hours. No, we're watching for 13 hours, right? It's all being recorded, right? Which means that no one is actually like lying. When it's like, oh man, he played volleyball for 6 hours until like 11 p.m. And it's not a lie because it's actually recorded. That's the thing that's kind of mind-blowing if you really think about it. There's actual proof that he's actually living this way on top of preaching 9 sermons a week, right? So, I heard one of his sermons. I heard a sermon by him today. It was very interesting. He's like, so I woke up at 2. We're like, oh, okay, right? And I started to clean stuff, and then I prayed. I got a message from God, and I delivered it at 5:30 a.m. And I'm like, what? It's like, oh yeah, this is my second week, by the way. We're like, oh, okay. And then I'm going to do another one at 10:4. It's like, oh, so it's not instead. And everything's recorded, right? And I think this is something that's very interesting, or what's good about what Minister Patrick talked about is this social media age. You can't lie about anything anymore. You just can't. If you play for 13 hours, there's probably someone there filming you for 13 hours. There's probably someone there saying, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. How do you do this at 73 years old? And it made me start to question myself, right? I started to question myself a bit, right? Well, not a little bit, a lot. Right? So I'm sitting in my room like going, this is interesting. Because my sermon, this was before my sermon started out with, I'm 40 years old, and I get a little bit sicker more, and I can't do a third of the things that I could do in the past. And this is something I wrote, and if you look at my notes too, my notes start off with that, but it doesn't start talking about our senior pastor until after. right? I was writing it after this, and I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of crazy. And I thought to myself is, what makes me, right, especially this week's message, right, we're talking about doing things urgently or quickly, right? One of the things we're required to, or requested, or something that God requires of all of us is what? Is for us to do things quicker, more quickly, right? What does that mean, right? What does it mean more quickly, quicker, right? Why does God want it quicker? Why? Because there's not a lot of time. You gotta think about it, right? If you got a test, right, and you have a test in 2 hours, you can't really study really slowly, right? Everything is limited to a certain amount of time, which means that if you don't do it fast enough, you won't get the things you need to get done, right? I know some of us are not from this country and some of us have to travel. That plane leaves at that time. You have to make it to the airport at that time, which means pack your bags quickly, right? That means what? Not saying to just do it quickly. You have to have a sense of urgency in your heart, right? Now, why don't you have the urgency? Why don't we want to do it really quickly? Because actually, to be honest, you want to do it quickly, right? If God's like, oh, come on, let's do this. We're like, oh yeah, I can do this quickly, right? Why can't we do it quickly? And I looked up this story, and it's a story about circus elephants, right? Everyone knows a circus elephant. You know the elephant they train, and they actually teach you how they can make an elephant not run away. And an elephant is about 10,000 to 15,000 pounds. Okay, it's huge. Okay? And they say, this is the trick. And we're like, what's the trick? You take a chain, and then you put it on a metal peg, and you put the peg in the ground. And then, you think to yourself, like, wait a second, that's like an 11,000 pound animal. Basically, if it just walks, it'll kick the pin out, or they actually said that the elephant has enough power to break the chain. He actually has enough power to do it. So the question now is, how is it that these circus trainers are able to get this 15,000 pound animal that's so strong to be held back by this tiny chain? And they said, well, you put it on them from when they're a baby, when they're about 220 pounds, 250 pounds. And when they're a little baby, you put that same chain with that same peg in the ground, and what happens is, the elephant, this baby elephant will try to get out, but what happens? It can't, because it just pulls back. And then what happens to the leg is, the chain actually rips the skin of the leg, the wound opens up, and it's really painful. So, the reason why this is important is because of that pain, the elephant remembers the pain, and even when it grows up to be 11 to 15,000 pounds, you put the same chain on, and it's reminded of the pain. And it doesn't move, right? It doesn't move, right? Now, what's the difference between a baby elephant and an adult elephant? The difference is maturity and age. It's grown. It's grown, right? It's about growth. It's about how much you've grown, how much you matured, where you are at right now. Now, there's a lot of things that we've tried in the past when God tells us to do something. He says, try this out, and guess what? There's open wounds. It's painful, right? Go talk to someone. It's painful. Go teach someone. It's painful. Go read the Bible. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you the truth. Reading the Bible is sometimes painful. It is, right? I'm going to be honest with you. In the past, I used to read the Bible when I couldn't sleep. It was the ultimate way to put me to sleep, right? It's like Jehoiachin, the son of Jehoiakim, the son of Uzziah, the son of Hezekiah, the son. And then I go to sleep. Why? Because it's such a hard book. And what happens is you take that open wound of this boring book that makes no sense to you, and when you read it again, you're like, oh, it's the same as before. It's the same. Every time you talk to someone about God, you reach out to them, and what happens? It's that same pain you had from the past when you were younger, when you were less mature. And that pain of someone saying, oh, no, you know what? I'm sorry, but I don't want to read the Bible. It's like, and the heart cuts open and blood just starts gushing out. And you're sitting there dragging yourself because someone said no to you. Someone said no to, hey, can I talk to you about God? No. And then like your eyeball falls out. It's swinging, like hanging from that little like nerve, right? And you sit there and it's like the most painful thing. Why? Because you did it when you didn't know. You did it when you were young. You did it when you were immature. And that pain stays with you. It just stays. And that's why you still can't do it right now. Why? Is because two things usually happen, right? When you try something new. Well, two things happen. If someone challenges you to do something, two things usually happen. Number one is you say yes. And the moment things start to suck, you think to yourself, this is just like before. I've seen this before. I never finish anything. I might as well just quit now and stop wasting my energy. Or the second thing happens is this. You don't even make up your mind to do it. You already gave up from the beginning. Nah, I've seen this before. There's no way I'm doing this. There's no way I'm going to do this. No, I've tried it. Tried it for 10 years. Nothing happens. And in most cases it is because you tried it in the first year, nothing happened, and you haven't done anything for the next 9 years. The sense of urgency, or the sense of doing something, taking action quickly, becoming faithful, becoming more faithful, doing things in better ways, right? Thinking to myself that this happens because I'm older, right? Thinking to myself, because I'm older now, I can't do the same things as them, right? Because I'm older now, I'm going to get sick quicker. And because I'm older now, I can't do this and I can't do that. And what we do is I put this chain on myself, right? And this chain is something that's very interesting because this chain is not new. This chain is basically from an older experience when I was younger. And I tried, it didn't work. And God sits with this sense of urgency asking every person right now is, take action quickly. Like, what are you doing right now? Do you have any idea what's going on in my heart right now? What has to get done? And why is God getting more urgent? And why does God get more angry? Because there's not enough time. Right? There's not enough time. If you guys got to study for a test, and you got 12 months before the test, no one's angry. No one's saying like, oh my gosh, we gotta study, we gotta do this. Come on, let's do this right now. But if you have 12 months, you got 12 months. Now I can start tomorrow. Got 6 months? No one cares. Did anyone start studying for finals 6 months before? Anyone? Anyone super amazingly like not normal 6 months before? No? Okay, how about this? Anyone start studying for finals three months before? 3 months? Maybe? No? Okay, we got a tough audience here. How about 2 months? Okay, so there's one. Like, some people are like, no way. Like 1 month? And we're like, no. So when do you start studying? When I feel it's urgent. That's what it is. When you feel like it's urgent. And why do you feel the urgency? Because there's not enough time. Not enough time. The reason why God would have an urgent heart and the reason why God tells you to do things quickly is not because He doesn't like slow people. It's because there's not enough time. If God were to tell you right now is important. Right now is the most important time more than any other time. Right now is important. He's not saying that just for the sake of it. He's saying because it's really important. You see, God is not like human beings, because human beings will use psychology. Do you know how important right now is? God, you know what? Right now is so important. You got to get this going. And we do it. Why? Because it's a psychological thing to make people feel urgent. But when God says now is important, He's not saying it for a psychological reason. God says things because it's truth. We realize why God is telling you right now is important. You have to realize why God, He kind of starts to feel this even bigger urgency, and even God can get angry. Why? Because He knows the time, and He knows how much time is left. Which means the people that don't know are the people who don't really have that urgency in their heart. And we're stuck to excuses and justifying ourselves saying, well, come on, man. I'm going to be 40 in a month, man. Come on. That's like... It's the people that refuse to make excuses and to justify themselves for not doing something what God says are the ones that will fulfill God's will absolutely. And what I'm telling you today is you need to pray and understand why God is saying now is urgent. Why is God saying these things to you? And if we realize this right now, then the way you think, and more importantly, the way you act will change. So everyone at this time, close your eyes. And I want you to think, do I have the sense of urgency in my heart? Do I realize what time it is right now? Do I realize how much time is left? And why God wants me to live this way? And think about what will you do this week that will make it different?
Take you where you wanna go. He can take you where you wanna go. He can show you what you wanna know. He can show you what you wanna know.